I realized in 2018 that I just did not want to be telling that story with my business anymore. I didn't want to be participating in having so much amazing knowledge and experience that I have in business, and having that locked behind kind of this ivory tower, if you will, of being referral only, of being high fee only. And this does not mean that I don't charge high fee anymore. It just means that it's not my only way to work with me.
This is CrisisCast 2020 with me, Toby Goodman, a podcast where I get timely wisdom from experts in life and business. These guests will answer my 5 questions, sharing wisdom and insights to help you and me get through this global shitstorm. Today on CrisisCast 2020, Lena West has been working in the online space for longer than most, but she's not had the need for her own website for at least 7 years, though that's about to change with a new project. She's the perfect antidote to the pressurized bro marketing we see everywhere. And in this conversation, we talk about her fortuitous repositioning, the importance of self-care, social justice, disability, music, and what business are you really in? Here's my chat with Lena West. Before we start the show, I have something for you if you identify as pod curious. It's perfect for you if you're an expert, consultant, or business owner. Maybe you're wondering if podcasting is worth the effort, especially now, or perhaps you've tried podcasting in the past but have been disappointed with the results. In this free guide, Podstar, I'll share the exact 7 steps we use to help publish over 2,000 podcasts each month. To get instant access, go to podcastnetworksolutions.com. Lena West, welcome to CrisisCast 2020. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Toby.
It's my pleasure. So we were just talking before we started this. Sounds like you've moved locations, and my first question is always, what has been your experience of the pandemic on a local level so far? And it sounds like you've moved because of it. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. So once the rumblings about, before it was even classified as a pandemic, once the rumblings about COVID-19 started happening it started getting more prominent around February, the beginning of February. And I knew that it was going to be much bigger than it is. And it was at that time. And I thought, I got to be able to take action here. And at first, it was locally, it was talk on the news, and it was isolated to Italy and some other countries. And then it had started to kind of trickle here. And I said, I've got to get myself physically, geographically, to a place where the population is much less than New York. And that's exactly what I did. Population is definitely much less. And because I just knew that would impact how things were done. And I also knew that would impact access to resources and just exposure to the virus in general, right? Less people, less exposure, I was going with that. And I was right. And so far it's worked out. Nobody in my immediate family has been infected, but we've all been affected, obviously. You know, it's a kind of thing where I'm just really glad that I've had this business in this way for so long, because, you know, I'm not new to the online business space. I've been doing this full time since 2004. I've been business coach in 2004. So I'm not new to this. And I'm glad that I structured my business in such a way that I can work and do whatever I need to do from anywhere. As long as I have a phone or internet, I'm good to go. And so, you know, I'm definitely privileged in that way. And I recognize that. And, you know, all the prep that you do in your business and all the work that you do in your business, you think, gosh, you know, am I doing this for naught? Is this going to pay off? And it's definitely paid off for me. And I don't know what it's been like in New York because I have not been there. I mean, I have friends and family there, obviously, and in the metropolitan area, but I wish I could speak to it, but I can't speak firsthand to it because I haven't been there. And I think I made the right decision for myself and my family.
Yeah. So where are you now?
I'm in the South, in the southern part of the country in the U.S., and it's a very small town. And I vacation here a lot. I holiday here a lot, and we have all the requisite stores and such to get supplies, but the population's a lot lower here.
Right.
But I have access to a Walmart and a Costco and different grocery stores and gas stations and that sort of thing. And so it's been a much different experience. I've heard firsthand accounts from people who are in New York, talking about the lines to actually get into the stores. And we just don't have that going on here. You wear your protective gear and you go in and you get your supplies when you have to, and you go home.
Yeah, right. There's an episode with Helen Appleby, episode 6 or 7, and she was in a apartment block. Her apartment is right opposite Mount Sinai A&E, and she got out, right? I had a call with her scheduled, and she didn't show up. And I found out that it was because she was driving south, right? So she's now in South Carolina, in her place there for exactly that reason, So, yeah, if you can not be in New York, sounds like a good choice.
Yeah, it's been really hard to not be in New York because my husband's an essential worker, and that's been interesting. Making that decision as a family has definitely been hard for us. But like I said, so far we've been protected, and we're just really grateful.
Yeah, that's great. That's good to hear. And you're a New Yorker?
I am, born and raised.
So this then speaks to my next question. I have these kind of two questions together, which is how are we going to get through this, and what does the other side look like? And for the Americans I've been speaking with, and specifically people who are from New York, a lot of them have been drawing on past experience of crisis, which has been 9/11, has been 2008. So with your experience of things that you've experienced, if that's the worst question ever, with your experience taking into account, how do you feel like we're going to get through this? What does the other side look like?
I honestly have no idea. I mean, I think that what the other side looks like, here's what I do know. What I know is the other side does not look anything like what it was. So what life was like in New York in December 2019, life is never going to look like that again. It just isn't. And I don't mean we're going to be in this state forever. I just mean that life will be different and how we go about things will be different. Even if it's something as different as, how we shop or how we commune with each other, groups. I don't know, but life will be different for sure. Business will be different for sure. I think that this is shining a light on the fact that for years, folks who are disabled have been saying, can we do this in a different way? Can we do this remotely? Can we do this remotely? And they've always been told, no, we can't do this. No, we can't do this remotely. No, it's not possible. And we're seeing that it's possible. And so I think we will continue to see things like that happening. And we're now starting to see, it wasn't that it wasn't possible. It was that folks didn't want to put in the effort. And that says a lot as well. I think that on the other side of this, if you have a business, you've got to figure out how the people you serve are impacted by this and what this means to them as relates to what it is that you do and what it is that you offer. Because if you can't speak to that, if you can't shift into whatever that role is, if you're a restaurant, you need to understand that people are not going to be eating out as much. Not because at some point, 6 months, a year down the road, that they'll be scared to catch a virus, but because this time has really shown them how important family meals and having meals together, how important that is and what that means to them. And so people are reconnecting with their values. And so if you're a restaurant and you're not offering family style meals, takeout family style meals, you're probably going to be in trouble because you're not understanding what business you're in. You're not in the restaurant business. You're not in the food business. You're in the making people feel comfortable business, right? Comfort food and connecting business. And you got to get that. Otherwise, you'll be like the famous railroads that didn't realize, that thought they were in the railroad business, but did not take the time to realize they're actually in the transportation business. So I think there's a lot of what this looks like on the other side. It's going to vary by industry, but it's not going to look anything like what it was. It's going to be different. And as far as how we get there, obviously, I think we have to take care of ourselves. I think this has been a wake-up call for a lot of people, myself included, about self-care and not running yourself into the ground. In the United States, we have fallen in love with this hustle culture, this grind culture. We have people like Gary Vaynerchuk telling us, hustle, hustle, grind, grind. And that messaging was played out and tired before, and it's definitely not resonant at this stage of the game. It's not sustainable, it's not reality, and it's not healthy. And so we have a large percent of the population who are now saying, I have to treat myself differently, because if I don't treat myself well, there's a chance I may not be here. This isn't the kind of a proposition where you'd say, oh, if I don't treat myself well, I might get sick, or, I might get a cold, or I might have to go to the doctor. There's a good chance that if you're not treating yourself well and you're not paying attention to general, just basic things like hygiene, you're in trouble in the dearest of ways. And I think people are starting to wake up to that now and get that message now. Some aren't, but a lot are. How we get through it, I think, is paying attention to ourselves so that we can be there for the people we love, our family, our friends, our neighbors, and support people who, for whatever reason, cannot support themselves right now, whether that's because of their own illness or pre-existing conditions or things along those lines. But things have changed, and things are going to continue to change. And the very first stop on this train is going to be how we take care of ourselves and making sure that we're getting rest and we're hydrated and we're nourished, because that's not a luxury anymore. It's a requirement.
Agreed. Completely.
I mean, it was never a luxury, but how we're viewing it is, you can't look at it as, it's a luxury anymore. You got to be looking at this as, this is a way for you to focus on yourself. And a lot of people are, and I'm loving the resurgence of going back to some of the home remedies and some of the natural remedies and things of that nature. I'm really loving the interest in that too. So things have changed for us.
They've already changed as well, and you're embracing that change. I think that seems to be, it's the people that are pushing back, and it's the emails that are coming through about hustling that are, for me, being unsubscribed to if they weren't already. So yeah, I think that's awesome. And I love the observation about the people with disabilities who've been asking for things to be changed. I think that's just so eye-opening, because I don't realize how much stuff people are going through because I'm not disabled, but I can totally see what you're talking about. We see it when it's in front of our faces, but the fact that you've been thinking deeply about that, and I think that is going to be the good stuff that's going to come from that. I think it's going to be easier for everyone to move about. I think that there will be some adaptations to buildings and things that take into consideration the social distancing thing, which suddenly mean that doorways are wider and other people can get about who previously weren't able to before. And that's an incredible thought, and speaks to the kind of person you are. But also, I really hope that all comes true.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that it's something we knew we had to do, No one wanted to do it. No one wanted to stop their world, stop their lives, stop their business, pause their lives, pause their business to do this. And now it's not an option. Life has a way of getting her way.
Tell me about what you're doing in your business, because you've been doing this for a long time. You've got the CEO Rising program that you're running. There's 2 levels to it, which people can find out when they check out the show notes. So we won't go too deeply into the different parts of it, but I'm just wondering, like, what you're doing, because you spoke to me around the social, like being socially, the social justice, being informed with that. Like, can you talk more about that? Because I think that's incredible. And clearly you were at a place where you were charging, in some cases, way more than you are now for certain things, but you have this conscience, this social conscience, and which is incredible. So I'd love you to explain about that, because it speaks to what you're doing now, of course.
Yeah, so I'm someone who doesn't believe in any coincidences at all. So I just am looking over the past, since 2018, really with me, I've been looking at shifting my business model, because I realized back in 2018 that, I don't want to say unbeknownst to me, because it's my business and it's been my business model, but I was participating unknowingly and definitely not intentionally, but nevertheless participating in a business model that was not a social justice informed business model. So what does that mean? That means that I had a business that was referral only. I have not had a website for about 7 or 8 years now, probably more. I'm being conservative. I've not had a website. My business has been referral only. And I've been charging thousands of dollars for years and years and years to work with me. It's been a significant investment to work with me. So that's been great for business. And what that's also meant is that there's only a certain segment of the population that's been able to literally afford to work with me. And I realized in 2018 that I just did not want to be telling that story with my business anymore. I didn't want to be participating in having so much amazing knowledge and experience that I have in business, and having that locked behind kind of this ivory tower, if you will, of being referral only, of being high fee only. And this does not mean that I don't charge high fee anymore. It just means that it's not my only way to work with me, right? So I've shifted my business model. And so, and it doesn't mean that I have anything against, a high fee business, because I'm saying it didn't work for me any longer, because I had to look at my business, and I also had to look at how I wanted to show up in the world, right? So this started rumbling in my business in 2018, and I worked with an instructional designer. I worked with a host of coaches. I worked with just some brilliant folks to help me to look at, well, what is it that you want then, right? If this business model is participating in classism and patriarchy and consumerism and capitalism, and you don't want that anymore, what do you want? And I completely reimagined my business, and I came up with a set of 3 problems that I wanted to address in the coaching industry, in the business coaching, the online business coaching space. And one of them is having access to a business coach you can trust. We're not going to sit here and pretend that business coaches don't have online business coaching world does not have a bit of a stain on its reputation, because it does. And, I always joke around and say, business coaches, online business coaches are the used car salesmen of the internet. And so, we got work to do. We've got work to do. And the other thing that I wanted to address is funding, and the fact that service-based businesses rarely get funding, and definitely not micro businesses and solopreneurs. So I wanted to address that. And then I said I wanted to address the fact that we need to see more women identified entrepreneurs on small and big screens. And because representation matters. And the only time we see ourselves is if, somebody's watching an episode of Shark Tank or something. Like, where are the women identified folks on television talking about entrepreneurism and business? And so I built this thing, and it's now called CEO Rising. We did the work to really have this social justice informed business model, and it's been really great. And then we were going to launch in February, and then COVID-19 happened, and I realized that I have a bit of a different worldview than most people, and I realized that the multiverse was preparing me and my business for this 2 years ago. And I now have a business model that's not only social justice informed, it's giving people what they need right now, which is someone they can trust to bring their greatest fears about their business to, and someone who believes in them enough to invest in them. So we have a grant program that you have access to when you, a monthly grant and an annual grant that you have access to when you're a part of CEO Rising. And then just literally 3 days ago, we launched CEO Rising Studios, which is a whole other arm of CEO Rising that is going to be doing some amazing things with on-screen representation for women identified entrepreneurs. And so I just realized, and I'm giving thanks for the fact that I decided to tear my business apart back in 2018. And it's been hard. 2019 was a different year financially for me, because I was not seeking new clients or anything like that. I was working on really dismantling what I believe was a problematic business model. And so I was actively working to dismantle that, and I did. And so I just feel like this whole time has been preparing me for this. And so folks now have access to what they need, and also the lens on representation is going to be changing with the work that we do through CEO Rising Studios. And it's going to be at a price point that people can afford right now. And I just feel deeply grateful to be doing this work. And I am most of all stunned about how, if someone had told me that this was going to go on in 2020, back in 2018, and that my business would be aligned for this, I don't know that I would have believed them. But that's exactly what happened. And I feel really good about it, not because I want people to work with me or because I want to get more clients. I am so not there. Obviously everyone loves new clients, but that's not the reason I did what I did in taking apart my business. And I just feel like I can be of more of service now than anything else. And I can not just serve the people, my clients, but I can work on changing the landscape in the online business world. And that's what I'm stoked about.
Yeah, it's great to see that you've done that. It's great to see that you did a 3-day free event. It's been very tiring, but yeah,
yeah.
It's awesome that you've done that. And it feels, I guess you're feeling pretty lucky that you took that pause before everyone else was forced to take a pause, right?
I'm not someone who believes in luck. I believe that you're prepared when opportunity presents itself. But yes, I'm fortunate.
Yeah,
I'm fortunate. Yes. There's a lot of privilege. There's a lot of fortune. There's a lot of grace. And there's a lot of, my ancestors making a way for me. So there's definitely a lot of that. And there's also a lot of work and preparation and hard work that I've put in physically and emotionally, and also my friends, because listen, how it is, Toby. Halfway through 2019, I called one of my friends and I was damn near in tears. And I was like, I don't know if I want to change this. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm just going to, I'm going to not do this thing. I'm not going to take this business apart. It's too hard to put it back together. And my friend was like, thank goodness for her. And she was like, no, keep going, keep going. You're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. And if she ever listens to this, she knows who she is. And so, I don't do this unsupported, not by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, that's important to acknowledge. It's certainly taken a global pandemic for me to become a podcaster, right? And I've been very comfortable hiding behind other podcasters, just, showing them what to do and stuff. But like, you know what? I need to do a podcast now.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got to realize that, we all have something to contribute. And thankfully, it's not the same thing, right? We all have our own unique genius that we can just bring to bear right now. And thank goodness it's not all the same genius, because we need variety, we need difference, and we need to, everyone needs to, if they can, speak up in their own way and share whatever brilliance they have, because everything is needed right now. The arts is needed. I watched recently, I was going to say Luciano Pavarotti, Andrea Bocelli. I watched him deliver a solo concert from Il Duomo a couple of weeks ago, and I just cried the entire time, because here is this brilliant soul, this bright voice, this amazing voice, standing alone because of this pandemic in a cathedral in Italy that's just been, really hard hit, and that's putting it mildly, by this virus, giving what he has to give, which is his voice. And I loved that it wasn't anything that was protracted. It was a half hour, it was 30 minutes. And I love that he said, this isn't a concert, this is a prayer. And I thought to myself, like, yes, we need this, all of this. And you would think to yourself, well, why would people need to hear from Andrea Bocelli in a pandemic? Yet that was exactly what we needed.
Yeah, I've really missed playing music, taking it for granted for a long time, being able to go out and speaking to a friend the other day and just saying, man, it'd be great to be able to drive for 3 miles and be given some terrible food and be told to move my car. But also have an hour of connecting with people on a stage. And I've done that for my whole life, I value it so much. I've come to value it in the last few years so much, with that lens of the world needing art and needing people to put that stuff in. And for a long time, I felt like I was just kind of, it was an ego-driven career that perhaps I shouldn't be doing. But actually, when you see the results of what a well-sung song does for people's spirits, it's incredible. And now I can't do it, and now a lot of my friends can't do it, and but they are being very innovative about collaborating online. But there'll be nothing like getting on stage,
a jam session. Nothing beats it.
There'll be nothing like it, right? And it's not it's not an extravagance. It's just an important part of life. I've really come to believe that. It's taken me a long time, but it's so valuable, isn't it? I'm going to check that out, because I knew he did it, but I didn't watch it. So thanks for flagging that. I'll try and put a link actually up on the page. So tell me, before we go, where people can find you, because you haven't had a website for a long time. You've been doing the under the radar thing in a really cool way, but now you're not, because you're in a position and you've positioned yourself to help people who need you now, and you've done that, and that's so cool. So where can people find you?
Folks can find me at ceorising.co, not .com, but .co, ceorising.co.
Okay, and you're on Facebook, LinkedIn. What's your preferred method of people getting in touch? The website?
Yeah, the website. I mean, I'm on the socials. I don't post a lot on social unless I have something really poignant to say. But the best thing to do is to head over to ceorising.co, drop your email in. I'm not into inbox abuse. So you're not going to hear from me. People who sign up, they're like, I haven't heard anything from you. And I'm like, that's because I talk when I have something to say. I'm not trying to fill up people's inboxes with a whole bunch of offers and, that sort of thing. Most of my marketing is no cost and pitch free. And so if people want to be in my orbit and learn from me, they know how to do that. They'll reach out or they'll sign up on the website or whatever. But yeah, don't expect to hear from me a lot, except for when it's something that's really great and something that's not just going to benefit me, but it's going to benefit you as well.
Yeah. And I've noticed that as well. I've really noticed that you don't communicate often, but when you do, it's poignant. And I've also noticed that when you do on social, suddenly you get a ton of like, yep, count me in, so it's really nice to see that. It's nice to see that is possible as well. You don't have to send your, auto responders out and all of that stuff. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Lenas. Thanks so much for your time. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Toby. This has been a really great conversation. It has.
Well, I feel the same way. So I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, Lena. This episode of CrisisCast 2020 was produced by me in London and Kate Astrakhan in Michigan, with artwork by Ryan Field and sound design by Lee Turner. CrisisCast 2020 is a production from Podcast Network Solutions, a full-service podcast production company who are ready to help you plan, record, produce, and promote your message with podcasting. To find out more and grab your copy of Podstar if you're feeling pod curious, visit us at podcastnetworksolutions.com.